Ritchie Band.
Thank you, darling. Good morning, folks, and welcome to Unity on the River. Lisa Plumley is our guest artist this morning. We're going to open up with People Get Ready.
Good morning. Welcome.
People get ready, there's a train coming. You don't need no baggage, you just get on board. All you need is faith in here with the diesels humming. You don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord. Thank you, God. Ooh, thank the Lord. Ooh, thank God. Thank the Lord. So people get ready, there's a train to Jordan, picking up passengers from coast to coast. Don't you know that? Faith is the key, open the doors and board them. There's hope for all among the loved the most. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. Thank the Lord. Ooh, thank you, God. Ooh, thank the Lord. Well, there ain't no room for the hopeless sinner. Yeah, there is. Who would hurt all mankind just to save his own? Have pity on those whose chances grow thinner. There's no hiding place among the kingdom's throne. No, there isn't. Thank you, God. Thank the Lord. Oh, gonna thank you, God. Thank the Lord. So people get ready, there's a train coming, it's already here. You don't need no baggage, you just get on board. All you need is faith to hear the diesel humming. You don't need a ticket, you just thank the Lord and you hop on board. Hop on board. Hop on board with John Davy. Hop on board with Lisa Goliath. All the Goliaths. Everyone that we love. Let me remember all the people that we love.
One more, boys.
You just thank the Lord. Thank you, God.
Lisa Plumley's in the house.
Ah, Moore Lynch Community Choir.
I fell into a shadow, then saw the light. And kindness was reaching through a maze. storm I create. Then I remember love. I see the forgotten one more time. Then I remember love. Without forgiveness, I will not be free. Then I remember love. Then I remember love. Who knows anything anymore? We're spinning a fine tale to see in my own corner of the filet. Oh, I remember why I dream, and I remember love. I see the forgotten one more time. Then I remember love. Without forgiveness, I will not be free. Then I remember love. Then I remember love. Take it easy. Then I remember love. See the forgotten one more time. Then I remember love. Without forgiveness, I will not be free. Then I remember love. Then I remember love. Then I remember love. Then I remember love. Thank you so much. Thank you, boys. All right. Okay, so if you're comfortable standing and joining the hand of the person next to you, this is surely the presence. We're going to take it up a bit.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I can feel God's mighty power and His grace. There's a holy rush around us, rising glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place.
Let us pray. Indeed, the presence of the Lord is here because you are here. Each and every one of you is the embodiment of the divine. God, fully present at the point in each and every one of you, and all that you bring to yourselves and to each other and to this world is to bring God into the world. And on this day, this weekend, we honor those who, in the service to us, to this nation, gave the ultimate sacrifice, their lives, perhaps the ultimate show of love. No greater love can any of us have for another but to lay down our life. So on this weekend, this Memorial Day weekend, we stand in gratitude, we stand in love for those who have served us. And I invite us all to join in the moment of silence in recognition of those who lost their lives in service to our nation. And so it is. Amen and amen. You may be seated. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Unity on the River. In case we haven't met, I'm Reverend Ogun Holder, Senior Minister here. And as I always say, and as I intimated earlier, we are indeed the presence of God. So should you want to see the face of God, you just look to the face of another, turn at someone and say, God looks good today. And there's just one thing also that I need to get out of the way. As we here in Unity believe God is the presence within us, not the puppet master in the sky pulling strings. But that being said, sweet baby Jesus, let the Celtics win tonight. That's all I had to say. I know there's not a God up there listening. But just in case we're all wrong about this, let the Celtics win tonight. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. They Celtics look good today. I'm going to turn it over to my comrade David. Thank you for facilitating today.
Hello. Do I have the right? Okay, you can hear me. Oh, this is great to be up here. It's been a long time. My name's David Tompkinson, and I'll be facilitating for Ogun today. So nice to see so many people. Happy Memorial Day weekend. It's absolutely great. I would like to welcome, first of all, the live streamers that we have on camera over there. Hello. Wow, we have a Memorial Day crowd here. This is pretty good. I wasn't thinking it'd be this many. I'd like to welcome anybody who is celebrating with us for the very first time. If you're new, if you wouldn't mind standing up so we can just welcome you. Pardon me? Oh, raise your hand. Don't stand up. Okay. You don't have to stand up, but yeah. You're going to get a flower. We have somebody back there. Yeah, that's what the script says. I like to depart from this, but I get into trouble when I do that. So I'm going to try to stay on script here. So that flower will get you a discount in the bookstore, so go on in there and check out our Spiritual Resource Center. We're so glad that you're joining us today. Did I miss anybody else? Any other hands up? Okay, how am I doing so far? You guys are my cues, right? If I miss something, just yell it out, all right? You can take your flower to the bookstore, you'll get a 10% discount. Very important. Please know that we welcome all paths to God here. That's what Unity is about, and you are all so welcome, and we're so glad that you're here. We are a center, Unity on the River, of transformation, inspiration, celebration, spirit-centeredness, oneness, and joy. So please hold these truths in your heart as we say our mission statement together. We are a vibrant spiritual community that celebrates the presence in all and awakens humanity to its divinity. And now our vision statement, centered in love, we joyously co-create a world of oneness, peace, and harmony. We have some brief announcements here. Class by Amy Jocelyn, Finding Yourself in Transition. It has a new date, which starts this Tuesday, May 29th, and it's still open for people who haven't signed up yet, so think of that. Also, after the service today at 12 p.m., there's going to be a meeting. Do I see this right? A U Club Cabaret meeting. Okay, I guess I better be literal and read this one. Please join in if you would like to help organize the U Club Cabaret Night in July. Kickball chain, kickball chain. A cabaret. So that sounds like a lot of fun. So 12 o'clock, Peter Stringham is going to be leading this in the back there. He'll be meeting that. Peter's quite a dancer. He never talks about it. I got that right? Ask Maura about what?
Come to the meeting at noon.
Next Sunday, we have a community potluck, and we are currently looking for a hospitality coordinator position, someone to fill that position. Please visit the church office for more details on that. Do I have it covered? Anything I missed? Anybody can? Okay, we're good. All right. This is our time where we greet each other in peace and love by saying namaste or a handshake, whatever you feel comfortable with. And so let's do it. Namaste.
2, 1, 2, 3.
Very nice.
Way over yonder, is a place I know where I can find shelter from a hunger and cold, and the sweet taste in good life is so easily found. Way over yonder, well, that's where I'm bound. Well, I know that when I get there, the first thing I see is the sunshine, golden now shining now, shining right down on me and you. Then trouble's gonna lose me, worry leave me behind, and I'll stand up proudly into peace of mind. Way over yonder is a place that I've seen in a garden of wisdom from some long ago dream, and maybe tomorrow I'll find my way, yes I will, to the land where the honey runs in the rivers each day. the sweet tasting gold life. It's so easily found, and way over yonder, that's where I'm bound, and way over yonder, well, that's where I'm bound. That's where I'm bound, where you can find me, y'all.
Lisa Plumley.
Hi again. So last week, I kind of left y'all apparently in a bit of a downer mood after my talk. There were some, I don't want to use the word complaints, I'll just say some reflections about how it wasn't my usual like upper kind of deal. So I have good news for you. The up talk will happen next week. You gotta come back. You thought it was happening this week, but no, we're gonna wallow a little bit more this week. Just give me advance notice. Don't want to deceive any of you. We started last week taking a look at this book, Finding Yourself in Transition. I say yourself, ourselves. Why? Because we're always in flux, always in change, whether they're small changes or big changes. And last week we mentioned how every change, every transition is a death of some kind. And therefore, with death comes loss, with loss comes grief, and if there's anything we always want to avoid is the feelings around grief. Okay, we human beings, we don't like to be sad, we don't like to be upset, we don't like to be angst-ridden, we don't like to be anxious, we don't like to be confused, we don't like to be, we just want to be happy. Ain't nothing wrong with that. We all want to be happy. We deserve to be happy. I think we're here to be happy. And the truth of the matter is that we also get the other emotions that come along with that. And a lot of those are triggered, predicated by change and transition, okay? And the whole purpose of not just this book, but recognizing these spiritual tools that we have is that we can use that for spiritual transformation, for an awakening, for elevating our consciousness so that, as I mentioned, I think last week, when we realize that we are beginning to enter into another change and transition, rather than go, oh my God, no, here we go again, we go, yay, change. That's as up as it's going to get this talk. I front-loaded it, just letting you know that's what's happening. So last week we kind of looked at how do transitions begin, and they begin with an ending. Okay, whether it's an ending we initiate consciously or it is initiated upon us. And we talked about the 4 aspects of endings. We talked about, whoa, not that one, jumped ahead. Well, back one? Oh, there we go. We talked about disengagement, when we have to untangle ourselves from whether it's a job, relationship, whatever. We talked about how we then go into disidentification, where we realized that, oh my God, I identified with these roles that I played, and now I don't have these roles. Who am I? And then we are disenchanted because this thing that we're now extricating ourselves from, this thing that is ending, which we thought was the most important thing in our life and the most valuable thing, the thing we needed to having to get through, is now going. And then we realize, oh, wait, so what do I really need now? So we kind of become disenchanted. And then disorientation. We just confused. We've lost direction. We're just like floating all over the place. And again, this is for everything, the micro, the macro. You know, it could be, and it could be sometimes joyful things that we think that bring about this. You know, so whether it's, maybe retirement. Maybe you've worked all your life and finally you hit retirement and you're like, yeah, I'm retired, but that's a big change. And we sometimes are getting confused and realize, wait, I'm retiring. I'm supposed to be happy about this, that I don't have to do the 9 to 5 anymore, but I got all these weird feelings, and this is not going well. And then we go and we buy a sports car. That's not why I bought the sports car. I'm not retiring in any way, shape, or form yet. That was more of a bucket list item. I'm getting ahead of the curve, right? Getting ahead of the curve. So these endings. Now, what comes after ending is we kind of have to do this thing where we call the departure. So the thing, the event, the relationship, the job, whatever, it's ended, but we got to go through this process before we can really jump into what's next. And part of that process is leaving the thing behind. And this can be very tricky, to leave the thing behind. This is part of that disengagement. How do we leave this thing behind? And one of the things we have to realize that the transformation, the personal, the spiritual transformation that comes about through change, it's not realized necessarily at the end when we get into the new thing and we're settled. It comes about through the process, through the journey, through the messy stuff in the middle. That's when the transformation happens. And many of us sometimes go into this place of, we're going to just hunker down and get through it. Because the only way out is through. Sometimes I like to quote the 23rd Psalm in that, yea, walk through the valley of the shadow of death. I'm walking through the valley, not pitching my tent. I'm not staying there, not camping. I'm walking through the valley. So we have this idea of we just got to buck up and get through it. When we do that, what we do is we rob ourselves of this amazing opportunity for the process to transform us. We have to trust the process. Trust the process. Any Philadelphia 76ers fans in the house? One in the back. Trust the process. It's a whole thing they had about building this team through the draft, and people were unhappy, and Philadelphia was this city that didn't have a win in years, and then all of a sudden the Super Bowl, it's like the NCAA win, and the Sixers made it pretty far into the playoffs, and the Celtics, put an end to that run. Can you tell where my head is this time of year? It's all about the NBA for me right now, but the process. And they got to a point where they're not there yet, but they're still in the midst of developing themselves as a team. So it is with us. We have to trust the process. And the departure when we leave can be very tricky. And continue to trigger us. Perhaps the greatest story in the Bible that talks about transition and learning and going through transition is the story in Exodus. The Exodus story. Now, in the next 3 minutes, I'm going to perform a minor miracle. I'm going to recap that whole thing for you. It's 2 books of the Bible, 1.5 books of the Bible that I'm going to recap for you in about 3 minutes. Because it's important you understand the story or know about the stories as written. And I don't want to assume that everybody knows about the Exodus story. And when we think about the Exodus story, the thing that comes to mind most of all is Moses and who's the bad guy in the Exodus? Pharaoh, and getting the Israelites out of Egypt. All right, some of you ahead of the game. All right, so those are the major points. But the story starts way back. You have to understand how they got there in the first place. And we got to go all the way back to Abraham. Abraham, the father of the nation, the patriarch of the 3 major religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Okay, Abraham was called by God. He settled in this land. He had a son named Isaac. Isaac had 2 sons, Jacob and Esau. A lot of family tension between the brothers. Jacob, the younger, robbed Esau of his birthright. It was a whole thing, but they made up at the end. Jacob was renamed Israel. Israel means wrestling with God, and he had a fight with an angel one night and somehow came on top. I don't know how that happened, but Israel won, Jacob won, and Israel had 12 sons. Okay, you've heard about the 12 tribes of Israel. Jacob had 12 sons. His favorite son was Joseph. the guy with the Technicolor dream coat. Okay? Joseph, because Jacob loved Joseph, gave him this coat, and Joseph had 12 brothers, 10 older, 1 younger, and Joseph clearly did not understand the brother dynamic and the age line, because he kept boasting to his brothers how he was a favorite son, and he would have these dreams, and his brothers would like bow down and worship him one day, and the 10 older brothers said, oh, hell no, that's not happening. And they sold Joseph off into slavery. Okay, this caravan was coming through, they sold him, boom, off he goes. He ends up in Egypt. So Joseph is in Egypt, and he's a slave, and he's in prison, and it's not going well, but he has this gift of dream interpretation. And he starts interpreting dreams, first other prisoners, then the captain in the prison, and then working his way up until he ends up interpreting a dream for Pharaoh. And the interpretation of the dream is we're going to have 7 years of plenty and then 7 years of famine. So let's start storing up some food. Pharaoh does this. And along the way, Joseph gets appointed as basically Pharaoh's right-hand man. Okay, 7 years of famine hit. Joseph is kind of, the CEO of the thing. So, like, I'm Pharaoh and Peter is Joseph. Not a good analogy. It doesn't end good for me, that. So let's scratch that. Scratch that one. All right, but you understand what I'm saying. So, like, Pharaoh was CEO, Joseph was COO, okay? And now there's famine all over the place. Let's head back over to Jacob, a.k.a. Israel, and now he thinks 11 sons. And he's like, we're out of food, but we heard Egypt have food, so off they go to Egypt to get food. And Joseph realized, oh, look who's come begging now. He wasn't really like that. But I can imagine somewhere in his head he might have been. So eventually, after some shenanigans, the family is reunited. Joseph forgives his brothers and brings the whole family down to Egypt, where there's food. Okay? Fast forward 400 years, okay, and this family of, 12 brothers, say 11, and I'm sure their wives, and I'm sure they brought, the cousins along, and, the scary uncle that nobody wants at the party. I'm sure they brought him along too. So all these people come along, and 400 years later now, they're a massive group of people. They were fruitful and then multiplied. The actual word in the Bible is they were prolific. And all of a sudden now, we have all these immigrants who have now begun to almost outnumber the residents. And they get a little afraid of all these numbers. By this time now, the new Pharaoh, or the new person in charge, is like, I don't know nothing about Joseph and how he saved us and all this. Is 400 years later. We have to crack down on these people who are here in our country that we kind of really don't want. So they enslaved them. So now all these Israelites are enslaved. And in order to make sure that they kept being enslaved and never outnumbered them, the Pharaoh issued a command to kill all the firstborn males of the Israelites. There was one mom who said, I'm going to buck the system. It's always a woman, isn't it? She's going to buck the system. So she had a baby, and she hid him for 3 months. But as you know, that's going to be a problem. Okay, 3 months trying to hide a baby. Baby's crawling all over the place, getting out through the front door, crying, wailing. And she realized at some point, I can't keep this up. So she puts him in the basket, in the river, and leaves him. Who discovers him but Pharaoh's daughter? Pharaoh's daughter discovers and says, look at this gorgeous baby. I'm taking him as my own. And actually says, go fetch me a nursemaid. So I want to nurse this baby. Turns out the nursemaid she hired was actual mom of the baby. Okay? Imagine that weird dynamic, just for a second. Baby turns out to be Moses. His name Moses, drawing him out of water. So Moses is now raised as an Egyptian prince. He's aware that he's not Egyptian. It's clear, but this is his family. This is who he is. One day he sees an Israelite just being beaten towards an inch of his life by an Egyptian. He kills the Egyptian, tries to hide the body, is discovered, and then Moses takes off. He runs into the desert to hide because now Pharaoh is all upset with him. Okay? And imagine Pharaoh's, I don't like to empathize with the bad guys, but imagine for a moment you took someone in, raised them as your own, and then they killed someone who was supposed to, he basically said, I don't want to be part of this system. And he ran. But here's the thing about when we run. I don't know if y'all realize this. We never run in from anything. We're always running towards something. We may not know it yet. I said 3 minutes. A miracle did not happen. So here we go. Moses is now out. He's settled down. He's in the land of Midian. He's out in the desert. He's settled down. He's married. He's working for his father-in-law. Another weird dynamic. Family dynamics and issues in the Bible, can't beat them. He's working for the father-in-law, and all of a sudden, what does he see? The burning bush. The burning bush in which God proclaims to Moses his name, I am that I am. And I'm sending you to go free my people. Moses comes up with a whole litany of excuses why this is not a good idea. Okay? He's like, I get nervous in front of people. I can't speak. God's like, I got you covered. I'm sending Aaron, your brother. He's swift of tongue. He can mesmerize people with his words. He got you. But they have all these fancy wizards and magicians who can do things. And God says, throw your rod onto the ground. The rod becomes a snake. For some reason, Moses is still not impressed by this. I'm like, you're a tough sell, Moses. Come on. I guess the burning bush wasn't enough. You got a snake stake and you got to, come on. So anyways, after fighting for a while, Moses finally decides, all right, I'm going to go. So he goes to Pharaoh and says, hey, surrogate dad, I'm back. Sorry about that whole killing the Egyptian thing. And by the way, I'm taking all these, Israelites with me. Of course, they laugh in his face, and they're like, this ain't happening. And that's when the fun starts. That's when the fun starts. That's when the plagues start. This is when God sends plagues over Egypt to try to convince Pharaoh to free the Israelites. Okay? And Pharaoh, stubborn guy. By the way, interesting side note. A while ago, if you remember from the Ask the Minister series, remember Ask the Minister talk? Sorry, I gave a few Sundays ago. If you've not seen it, please check it out on YouTube. Someone asked about the devil. And, is there a devil? What's going on with that story? And I talked about how that's really not the case. When you read the Old Testament, especially these earlier stories, anything that happens, even by the quote-unquote bad guys, God caused it. When you read the text, it is always God hardened Pharaoh's heart. In other words, it's not that, God's got a weird sense of humor. No, it's that God is all there is. So God sends Moses to free the Israelites. God brings the plagues. God hardens Pharaoh's heart. God is the source of all. This was the original idea. The original idea in the Hebrew story from which Christianity springs. So when, again, you're at the Memorial Day cookout with the weird uncle who nobody really wants to talk about, and he starts telling you about how unity is a cult because we don't believe in hell and the devil, just say to them, hey, read Genesis and Exodus and those early books. Where the devil at? God caused everything. This was the original idea. That's why sometimes unity is referred to as new thought / ancient wisdom. Because we've gone back to that original concept of God is all there is. And side note, where were we again? Oh yeah, the plagues. The plagues. So after 9 plagues, Pharaoh is still like, this is all you got? And then God unleashes the 10th plague, the angel of death, which comes down and takes all the firstborn of Egypt. in a rather, kind of macabre twist of irony, because remember Pharaoh did that a while back, and now it's coming back to him. Again, I mentioned this before, the only way that the Israelites escaped this was by painting lamb's blood over the doorposts, and when the angel of death came, passed over it. Hence the celebration of Passover. That's still observed to this day. That's what that's honoring. And after the 10th plague, Pharaoh's like, okay, this is it. You guys can go. You guys can go. And you had to know, you just had to know that it was trouble from the start, from the departure of Egypt. The first real complaint came when they left and they made it to the edge of the Red Sea, which wasn't far. They were camping there. And once again, God hardened Pharaoh's heart. And he's like, I've made a horrible mistake. We got to go get our slaves back. So he gets all the soldiers in the chariots, and they take off after them. And the Israelites who were now camped at the edge of the Red Sea see the Egyptians come in. And they said to Moses, it wasn't bad enough. We were dying in heavy labor. You're going to bring us out here to get killed? This is what they said. And let me read to you what happens next. I think most of you already know. Moses said to the people from Exodus 14, "Fear not, stand firm, and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will work for you today. For the Egyptians who you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you, and you have only to be still." You have only to be still. The Lord said to Moses, "Why do you cry to me? Tell the people of Israel to go forward. Lift up your rod, stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it, that the people of Israel may go on dry ground through the sea." And that's, in the story, what happened. The sea is parted, the Israelites pass through. As the Egyptians come to follow them, the sea consumes them again. The interesting pieces of these story, again, when we look at them metaphysically. So again, here in Unity, it's that idea that each of these things represent part of our own spiritual growth. So let's step away from the fantastical idea of this story. By the way, if you've never seen the Ten Commandments, go see it. Horrible special effects. Horrible. But I think Charlton Heston's best role ever. So when we speak of Egypt and we speak of Pharaoh, we're again speaking of those things that we become disenchanted by. Remember we talked about disenchantment earlier? And we've come to rely on the things outside of us as the things that are going to bring us the peace, happiness, safety, and security. From the roof over our heads, to the money in our bank account, to the car that we drive, to the job that we have, to the promotion we're after, to the retirement in our bank. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that these aren't things that we shouldn't have. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is, how much have we been relying on them for our sense of safety and security and peace of mind? That's what Egypt and Pharaoh represent in us when we place these things more important than our own spiritual transformation, than our own spiritual growth. When we put those things in front of the truth that we know about ourselves as divine beings, then we are enslaved in Egypt. And we have to have our liberation. And often when transition happens to us, like the stock market crashed and there went half our retirement. Or this company that is supposed to vest me, and all of a sudden, a year before my retirement, they're firing me, or the company goes under. Or this person who I'm supposed to spend the rest of my life with, a month before the wedding suddenly disappears. Or 3 years into our marriage or relationship, they're gone. Or maybe perhaps they just die on us. When these things happen, we have to see them as an opportunity to get ourselves out of Egypt, to get ourselves out of the reliance of these things as a source of our peace of mind, of our love, as our security. Yes, we're going to feel our feelings. Yes, we're going to feel the sadness and the grief. That's the whole point. The whole point is to let the grief and the feelings that come up from these awareness and awakenings transform us. And the departure from those things that we got to leave behind can be tricky. When the Israelites were camped between the Red Sea, and they were like, we can't go that way, and this way, here comes Egyptians. It's like when we get stuck between not knowing where we move in next, because we can't seem to see the way, and over here, we got all the things that were stripped from us, that we left behind, and we're stuck in the middle, and the memories and the hopes and the dreams are like shattered, and we don't know where to go, and we're just in this place. And why have you brought us here? Things were bad before, but at least we knew what it was. Now we're here in this place of total uncertainty and craziness, and we don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle this. I don't know. So we have two choices. We can spiral down. We can run back to Egypt if we want to. Or maybe we can't, depending on what the situation is. So what do? We stand still. We stand firm. We fear not. And we see the salvation of the Lord. We see the liberation that can come through allowing the divine within us to be our touchstone, to be our guidance, to be the thing that makes the way when there is no way, to part that sea of uncertainty for us, and in faith go forward. They didn't know what was on the other side of the Red Sea. There was no map to get to the promised land. That's why they wandered for 40 years, and as the old joke goes, Moses was a man in charge and didn't stop to ask for directions. But we be still and know that in the midst of the fear and the anxiety and all those emotions that come up to us when that which we thought we needed, or that which we are finally able to extricate ourselves from because we didn't need it, but we still don't know what's next. Stand still. Stand firm. Trust in the Lord your God. Trust that the divine of who you are is what is going to get you going. And then step forward. Because here's the thing, after that Red Sea parted, they still had to walk forward. They could have been like, walls of water, that's not looking so, no, not gonna happen. Because that in itself must have been a frightening experience. I mean, can you imagine that? Can you imagine if I said to you, hey, we're going to go down to Newburyport, and we're going to cross over to Salisbury, the bridge is broken, but you know what? We're going to part the Merrimack River, and we can just walk across, and that happens, and the water's there, and you just see this thing, and the walls of water. Who's going first? I don't know. Thank you, Maura. But I know it's going to be one of those situations where it's like, all right, Rebel, you got us here. You show us it's going to work first. I mean, And when you get over there, then you call us. You got to make sure you get. No, they still had to step forward in faith. Okay, and this sometimes for us is the most crucial and the most difficult part of our journey. To step forward in faith. After our heart has been broken 3,000 times, step forward in faith into a new relationship. After we've been let go from company after company after company to find a new job. After we've been told by hundreds of people, you can't sing, and then you still go do it anyways. This is stepping forward in faith. And this is the only way that we are going to get to our promised land where change will happen again. Because the journey never stops. But we can be still, we can be no, we can step out in faith and say, yay, change. Yay, change. Let's take us into meditation. So if I take a deep breath, let's just spend a few moments getting centered. Plant both our feet on the ground. Feel ourselves supported by the chair beneath us, ground below us. Let's take a few deep centering breaths. Allow the breath to pull you into this present moment. On each out-breath, relax just a little bit more. And perhaps you are in the midst of a change right now. If you are, bring it to mind. Perhaps you know there's one coming up. Bring that to mind. Perhaps one was just forced upon you. All of us are somewhere on that spectrum. Whether it's a small or big change, it doesn't matter. The size does not matter. Simply bring it to mind. Honor the feelings of maybe anxiety or sadness or whatever comes up. Just observe them without judging or wishing to deny them. Just observe them. And envision yourself in this place of perhaps uncertainty or despair or anxiety, simply being still. Being still. Like the eye of the storm. In that place of stillness, we find our strength. The strength of knowing that the Lord our God is our salvation. That the divine Christ consciousness that we are is that which parts the way before us, that we may step out in faith. see yourselves gather in strength in the stillness for a few moments in the silence. In the stillness, I find strength. And we hold that intention for all the names in this prayer box, all the concerns, all the moments of change and transition, that these individuals remember in the stillness they find the strength of God and step out in faith. And should you hold that intention for anyone else in your life, including yourself, I invite you to say names out loud. To be in transition is a golden opportunity to discover the truth, the deep truth of ourselves as divine beings. And so it is. Amen.
In the silence I shall go. In the stillness there's a knowing. In the presence of divine love, I am love. I am loved. Shemaiah, 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 Shemaiah. In the silence I shall go. In the stillness there's a knowing. In the presence of divine love, I am loved. I am loved. Shemaiah, 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 Shemaiah. The silence I shall go. In the stillness there's a knowing. In the presence of divine love, I am loved.
right microphone? Okay. I have to say something very personal here. I have a Master's of Divinity. I went to a graduate theological seminary. I took Old Testament courses with PhDs. What you heard today was brilliant. And I want us all to know the gift that we have. It's not just a story. It's the peace that passes all understanding. Thank you, Ogun. Brilliant. So, in that vein, I would like to introduce our prayer chaplains that we have. If you would stand, if you're able to. These beautiful people are here for you. If you have something you would like to talk about, something, I was just a few months ago, I had a situation I just wanted to air out. And Catherine was so wonderful in just hearing me. So they're really an asset to have. Thank you so much. After the service, they'll be available for prayer. I'm just still moved. I'd like to take a moment to also recognize a program that we have here for home and hospital visits led by Annie Houghton, in the same vein. Another personal word, sorry, but I just have to say this because I love this community so much. And we have a pastoral ministry here that is second to none among Unity churches. When my father-in-law, John Davy, died, who was a veteran, this will be the first year he won't be at the end of my driveway like this when the parade comes down with his veteran's cap on. And when he died had the most wonderful ending to his life. Because Annie Houghton came to visit it from the visitation team. Reverend Ogun was there 2 or 3 times in his room with him, and also at the hospital. Others from this church came there. This is what happens when you give the kind of service and the volunteering that he did. It was like putting money in the bank, and boy, was it there when he needed and wanted, and he loved having these people come to visit. So I'm just letting you know that's part of what it means to be a member of a spiritual community that looks after its own and extends beyond. So thank you for allowing me to share that with you. Your prayer requests are heard and read. We have a prayer request box. If you have something you would like to bring to that and write down, the prayer team will pray over that, and then it goes to Silent Unity, and it's prayed over for 30 days even after that. So this is the time we want to affirm our tithes and our offerings and prepare for that. And so if you have a check, or if you'd like to hold them in your hand and let us bless them. And breathe into the energy of the giving that we receive here. So now we're going to have music, right? Oh yeah, we say the... I love this place because you people are so forgiving that an old guy like me can come up and do this. So let's say together the affirmation of our tithes and offerings. Divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive.
I gotta tell you, when I was looking over the program or schedule and music, and I saw a harp instrumental, I was expecting to see a thing with strings on stage today, and I was like, ooh, that's exciting. That was not a joke, man. I was being serious. I was expecting a thing with strings, and then I was like, there you go. I was like, oh, that's right, a blues harp. I can be such a square sometimes. So in that energy of gratitude and joy, we give thanks for these gifts. For those who gave here today, for those of you who gave online, who might be watching, for those of us who are tithing automatically, any way that you've given to this spiritual community, that you've invested in this place of love, I say thank you. And following the spiritual principle of tithing, we give a portion of these back into the unity movement, the Amesbury local community, and continue being in the flow. And so it is, and so we let it be. Amen and amen. Thank you. Only one more quick announcement. Mary, get those. One more quick announcement. If you want to lead a workshop or a class, I know many of you have many gifts and you like to bring that to our community, give classes. The deadline, if you want to do a class anywhere in the third quarter or even beyond, June 1st, which is next Friday. So if you're thinking about, I want to do a class in August or September or something, the forms are in the office, or you can find them online. Share your gifts with the community. And I think David's got some other announcements.
The little things, you know. I want to say thank you for all the people who contribute so much to making this the lively spiritual community that it is. And so I'll follow the script here. Our angels of the week are Malik and Lacey, Michael, everyone who stayed after the spring fling. Michael did it again for the second year, the dance that we had here. All those who donated items for the spring fling auction, including Sharon, Nancy, Lisa, Serene, Stan, Barbara, Steve, Jackie, and the team from the Unity Business Alliance, better known as TUBA. Everyone who came for Saturday morning spring cleaning, including Jim and Judy. I was a part of the little meditation garden work day that we had, and check that out. John's doing a great job at completing that pagoda. It's going slowly, but it's going, and it's beautiful out there. Also would like our beautiful board members to stand so we can recognize you. They're the people behind the screen turning the wheels. And also a very special thanks to those that make the Wednesday night service happen. Very special this week. We're going to be chanting with Kirtan Swan at 7 p.m. And let me see. Music Ministry, a workshop on how to play the Native American flute. Did I get that right? Is that Wednesday night or? That's the following week, right, Peter? Okay. I think we're done. We got a big song. We're going to let go, right? We're going to release it.
Okay.
There was a time in my life I thought I had to do it all for myself. I didn't know the grace of God was sufficient. I didn't know the love of God was at hand. But now I can say, if you are discouraged and struggling just to make it through another day, you gotta let it go, let it go, let it all go. And this is what you have to say. Yeah, I release and I let go.
and my heart is open wide. Yes, I am only for love. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith, I see the light. I am free in the spirit. Yes, I'm only for love. I release and I let go. I let the spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I am only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith, I see the light. I am free in the spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I am free in the spirit. Only for
Let's stay standing as the kids come in. Before the kids come in, I also want to thank someone else who was instrumental in our inside cleanup. Louisa, you were here. There were like 4 of us here trying to clean this whole place up on that Saturday. So I want to thank them. And yes, Barry?
I wanted to mention that we had an amazing memorial service yesterday for Lisa Gallant.
Yes, we did.
We planted a tree in memory of Lisa Gallant. We spread Lisa Gallant's ashes around that tree.
Yes.
I wanted to mention that. It was beautiful.
Thank you. You're jumping ahead of my script, but I love you anyways for bringing it up. It's all good, man. It's all good. Thank you. See, they know I have memory issues, so they leave nothing to chance anymore. Nothing to chance. But thank you very much. Yes, we did honor Lisa yesterday. Planted a beautiful tree in her honor. Some of her ashes are sprinkled therein with the tree, as Barry was saying. Please take a chance to go and take a look when you're done, and remember that this garden is not just Lisa's legacy, but it is under our care. So in the future, as we request folks to come help out with our garden cleanup and maintenance and keeping things going, remember this is our garden. It's not the board's garden, it's not the staff's garden, it's not their garden, it is ours. So we can all lend a hand. And on that note, let's walk as light. Bring in the kids.
We are
Good morning. We had a small, quaint group today. And a few teenagers. We covered the whole gamut of ages. We talked about Memorial Day and the symbolism of the poppy flower and how it speaks of remembrance and the importance of why a lot of us end up celebrating on Memorial Day weekend and why a lot of people aren't here and having the benefit of going away and enjoying, and we really talked about what the day means.
Awesome, thank you. So let us stand, take the hand of our neighbor, hold the truth for these children, for ourselves. There's peace on earth, and it begins with us. Anyone say prayer protection with me? Come on, come on. light of God surrounds us. Ready, go. The light of God surrounds us. Love of God. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. The presence of
God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well, and we are richly blessed.
Thanks. Great. Thanks, Cindy. All right, cool.